The heavy pine broom slipped from Leah Vance's calloused fingers, clattering sharply against the polished marble floor of the executive corridor. Up on the 42nd floor of the glass tower overlooking downtown Chicago, the usual silence was suddenly broken by a harsh, suffocating sound coming from the corner office. Leah paused, her heart leaping into her throat as she heard desperate shouting through the double glass doors. Having spent years in fast-paced emergency rooms, she recognized that distinct, hollow, rasping sound instantly. It was the terrifying noise of a human body starving for oxygen, of a cardiovascular system collapsing in real time, and her instincts told her someone was dying just a few feet away. Through the frosted glass, she could see the silhouette of Arthur Sterling, the 52-year-old founder of the private equity firm, slumped forward across his mahogany desk. 3 European banking representatives who had flown across the Atlantic that morning to finalize an investment worth $50 million, were frozen in sheer panic around him. Arthur was clawing at his chest with both hands, his knuckles bone white, his face turning an alarming ash-gray beneath the recessed lights. His administrative assistant, Kelly Evans, dropped a stack of legal documents and rushed to his side, her voice trembling in absolute terror as she repeatedly screamed his name, begging him to breathe. Arthur's eyes rolled back, his body shuddering with sudden tremors as his heavy frame slipped off the executive leather armchair and hit the floor with a dull thud. One of the German delegates fumbled with his mobile phone, trying desperately to dial emergency services, while Kelly attempted to punch numbers into the desk phone with hands shaking so violently she dropped the receiver. Leah stood outside the threshold, a sudden storm of memories flooding her mind. Only 2 hours earlier, Arthur had brushed past her in the hallway without acknowledging her quiet greeting. 6 months prior, when she had pointed out a leaking pipe near the storage closet, he had dismissed her with cold indifference, telling her that he did not speak directly with the custodial crew and that she should report to her supervisor. Yet in this terrifying moment, as she watched a human being slipping into cardiac arrest, every ounce of past hurt evaporated from Leah's spirit. She did not see an arrogant corporate executive who had treated her like an invisible shadow for nearly 2 years. She saw a fragile life hanging by a single, fraying thread. Dropping her cleaning rag into the yellow plastic bucket, she pushed open the heavy glass doors and stepped inside with an absolute, commanding authority that instantly stunned the room into silence. "Step back, everyone! Give him room right now!" she ordered, her voice cutting through the panic like a blade. Kelly looked up from the floor, tears streaming down her pale cheeks, her voice cracking with confusion. "Leah, what are you doing in here? Please, get out. This is not the time to clean." But Leah did not flinch. She knelt beside Arthur's motionless body, placing 2 fingers firmly against his carotid artery, while simultaneously checking his pupil responsiveness. "Be quiet and listen to me," Leah commanded with steady, unquestioned authority. "Call 911 immediately. Do not say he fell. Tell the dispatcher verbatim. Male, 52 years old, acute myocardial infarction, imminent cardiorespiratory arrest, advanced life support required immediately." One of the visiting investors, Hans Mueller, stared in complete shock at the woman in the faded blue custodian uniform who was giving clinical directives with flawless precision. "Do you understand medicine?" he asked in disbelief. Leah did not waste a second looking up. She gripped Arthur's $100 silk necktie, yanked it loose, and firmly ripped open the starched linen shirt to expose his chest. "I am a medical doctor," she announced with calm, unwavering certainty. 15 years as a board-certified cardiologist. Clear the space. I need room to work. The silence in the boardroom was absolute, broken only by the faint hum of the building's ventilation system. The woman who emptied their trash bins and mopped their floors had just claimed to be a heart specialist, but the extraordinary composure of her posture left no room for doubt. Leah locked her elbows, placed the heel of her right hand squarely on the center of Arthur's sternum, and began chest compressions at a flawless tempo of 110 beats per minute, counting aloud, with rhythmic precision. Kelly, run to the executive restroom and soak 2 hand towels in cold water. Hands, lift his legs 45 degrees to assist venous blood return to the core. With every compression, Leah poured her entire soul into keeping the dying man's brain oxygenated, tilting his head back to open his airway and delivering precise rescue breaths before immediately resuming the demanding rhythm. "Stay with me, Arthur," she whispered beneath her breath, like a fervent prayer. "Breathe. It is not your time to leave this world." After 2 exhausting minutes of relentless resuscitation, Arthur's chest heaved with a sharp, gasping intake of air. His eyelids fluttered open, his unfocused gaze drifting across the ceiling before locking onto the woman kneeling over him, her face beaded with sweat. "You are having a severe heart attack," Leah said gently, keeping her hand steady on his chest to prevent him from moving. "You are stable now, but stay completely still. The paramedics are 2 minutes away." "And yes, Arthur, I am the cleaning lady you never greeted, but I am also the cardiologist who just pulled you back to life." 7 minutes later, the emergency medical team from Northwestern Memorial Hospital burst into the 42nd floor suite, carrying a defibrillator and trauma kits. The lead paramedic, a veteran with 20 years on the city rescue squad, quickly knelt beside Arthur, checking the vital monitor before glancing up at Leah with wide, admiring eyes. "Sinus rhythm restored, airway clear, blood pressure stabilizing," the paramedic muttered in genuine astonishment. "Whoever performed this cardiopulmonary resuscitation knew surgical precision." "Are you a physician, ma'am?" Leah simply nodded, providing a crisp 30-second clinical handover detailing the onset of symptoms, 40 seconds of total asystole, and the exact intervention protocols applied. As the paramedics carefully transferred Arthur onto the transport gurney, his trembling fingers reached out through the tangle of oxygen tubes, gripping Leah's wrist with surprising strength. His eyes, clouded with lingering pain and sudden clarity, searched her calm face. "Why did you save me?" he croaked, his voice barely a breath against the plastic oxygen mask. "After how I ignored you. Why did you do this for me?" Leah gently placed her free hand over his cold fingers, offering a soft, melancholy smile. "Because that is what doctors do, Arthur. We take an oath to preserve human life, without ever asking whose life it is." When the elevator doors closed and the paramedics rushed Arthur down to the waiting ambulance, a profound stillness fell over the executive suite. Kelly, Robert from accounting, and the 3 European financiers stood in a daze, watching the quiet woman who had just performed a modern miracle. Leah calmly walked over to the corner, picked up her fallen broom, adjusted her blue apron, and retrieved her bucket. "If you will excuse me," she said softly, breaking the awkward silence, "I need to finish the 12th floor restrooms before my morning shift ends at 6 o'clock. Hans Mueller stepped forward, adjusting his tailored suit jacket, his voice thick with uncharacteristic emotion. "Doctor, what you did just now was nothing short of extraordinary. I have never witnessed such courage and skill." Leah paused at the threshold, offering a gentle, knowing sigh. "Life often places us in positions we never anticipated, Mr. Mueller. But strangely enough, sometimes those are the exact places where our presence is needed most. When you visit him at the hospital, tell him to stop working 16 hours every day and cut back on red meat. His coronary arteries cannot sustain that kind of pressure. 2 hours later, in the cardiac intensive care unit of Northwestern Memorial Hospital, Arthur opened his eyes to the soft, rhythmic beeping of telemetry monitors and the sterile scent of antiseptic. Beside his bed sat his wife, Clara, her face pale and her eyes swollen from weeping. "Arthur, thank God you are awake," Clara whispered, pressing her tear-stained cheek against his palm. "The chief of cardiology told me that you were clinically dead on the floor of your office. He said your survival is a complete miracle." Arthur blinked slowly, the scattered fragments of his memory locking back into sharp focus. The crushing pain, the shouting, the cold floor, and then those firm, steady hands pressing into his chest. "It was not a miracle," Arthur murmured hoarsely, staring at the white ceiling tiles. "It was Leah. The woman who cleans the 15th floor hallway. She broke through the door and saved me." Clara looked at him with gentle bewilderment, wondering if the lack of oxygen had caused her husband to hallucinate. "Arthur, what cleaning woman?" "The head physician told me an experienced emergency cardiologist escorted you in the ambulance and handed you over to the trauma team." Before Arthur could answer, the door swung open, and Dr. Richard Hayes, a distinguished cardiologist in his late 50s with silver hair and a thoughtful expression, entered the room with Arthur's medical charts. "Mr. Sterling, you are an exceptionally fortunate man," Dr. Hayes said warmly, pulling up a rolling stool beside the bed. "You suffered a massive anterior wall myocardial infarction. Your heart stopped completely for nearly 50 seconds. If that physician in your office had not executed a textbook resuscitation within the first 2 minutes, you would have suffered irreversible neurological damage, or you would not be speaking to us right now." "She works on our cleaning staff," Arthur stated, his voice cracking with a mixture of disbelief and shame. "She told me she was a cardiologist with 15 years of clinical experience." Dr. Hayes nodded solemnly, adjusting his spectacles. "Her name is Dr. Leah Vance. I spoke with her in the ambulance bay before she took the commuter train back home. She gave me the most flawless clinical summary I have received in 20 years. When I asked the hospital registry about her, several senior attendings remembered her vividly. 5 years ago, Dr. Vance was one of the finest emergency cardiac specialists at Cook County Hospital. But leaving that institution under complicated circumstances cost her everything." The revelation hung heavily in the sterile hospital room, casting a long shadow over Arthur's conscience. For 2 full years, a woman who possessed the intellect and skill to pull human beings back from the edge of the grave had been wiping down his conference table and emptying his wastebaskets for $8 an hour. Clara looked at her husband with deep sorrow and urgency. "Arthur, you have to find out what happened to her. You owe that woman your very breath." Arthur nodded slowly, his jaw set with a newfound determination. "I will do more than thank her, Clara. I am going to find out the truth." Later that afternoon, Hans Mueller and Kelly visited the hospital room. Hans carried a leather briefcase, his expression entirely transformed from the rigid banker who had arrived that morning. "Arthur, my friend, we were terrified for you," Hans said warmly, shaking his hand with genuine care. "I came to tell you that our investment board in Frankfurt reviewed the situation. The way your organization operates, the caliber of people you employ, even in your support staff, shows an extraordinary institutional culture. We are approving the $50 million credit facility immediately." Arthur closed his eyes, overwhelmed by the profound irony of the universe. The woman he had treated like air had not only saved his beating heart, she had also preserved the financial empire he had spent 3 decades building. As soon as the visitors left, Arthur called Kelly and requested Leah's personal file from the contracted custodial agency. Half an hour later, the sparse details arrived. Leah Vance lived in a modest neighborhood on the far south side of Chicago, was married to a structural draftsman named David, and had a 12-year-old daughter named Maya. To keep her family afloat and maintain medical benefits, Leah worked 2 exhausting shifts, cleaning corporate suites from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, and then mopping floors at a private community clinic from 7 in the evening until midnight. 16 hours of manual labor every single day, just to survive. Arthur dialed her phone number with trembling hands. After 5 rings, a quiet, weary voice answered. "Hello? Dr. Leah. This is Arthur Sterling," he said softly, feeling a lump rise in his throat. There was a long pause on the line before Leah replied, "Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling. How are you feeling? You should be resting and avoiding emotional strain." "I am breathing because of your hands, Leah," Arthur whispered, tears finally escaping his eyes. "I need to see you. Please, where are you right now?" "I am currently on the bus, heading to my night shift at St. Jude Community Health Center," she replied plainly. "Cancel that shift, Leah," Arthur insisted, his voice breaking with emotion. "I will pay you whatever you would earn tonight. I will pay you $200, $500, whatever it takes. Please, let me meet you." "I need to understand." Leah hesitated, listening to the hum of the city bus around her. "You do not need to pay me to have a conversation, Mr. Sterling, but I will not meet you at a high-end restaurant or your penthouse. If you truly wish to speak with me, meet me tomorrow afternoon at the small diner across from the public park on 87th Street. The following afternoon, having signed his own discharge papers against the initial protests of his medical team, Arthur arrived on the south side. Dressed in a simple wool sweater and dark slacks, he walked into the modest diner, a world away from the pristine marble lobbies of Michigan Avenue. Leah was already seated in a vinyl booth near the window, wearing a plain cream cardigan and denim jeans, sipping black coffee. In the bright afternoon light, free from the shadow of her blue uniform, she possessed an undeniable grace and a quiet, dignified presence that commanded profound respect. "Thank you for coming, Arthur," she said softly, gesturing toward the empty seat across from her. Arthur sat down, feeling smaller than he had ever felt in his entire life. He looked at the woman across the table, a brilliant healer who had endured 2 years of total invisibility, and took a deep, trembling breath. "Dr. Vance, Leah, please tell me everything. How did one of the most gifted cardiologists in this city end up cleaning my office floor?" Leah stirred a single packet of sugar into her mug, watching the dark liquid swirl as the weight of buried memories rose to the surface. "My father was a union carpenter, and my mother was a seamstress," she began, her voice steady yet deeply nostalgic. "We lived in a cramped 4-room flat right here in this neighborhood. I was the eldest of 3 children, and from the time I was 7 years old, I dreamed of healing sick hearts. My parents sacrificed every spare dime they earned, working double shifts on weekends, so I could afford preparatory books and application fees for the medical board entrance exams." Arthur listened intently, picturing the immense sacrifice behind her career. "I earned a full scholarship to the University of Illinois College of Medicine," Leah continued. "During the day, I attended rigorous lectures, and at night, I worked as a night cleaner in small medical practices to pay for my living expenses. Cleaning was honest work, Arthur. It paid my rent and allowed me to study medical textbooks during my 10-minute breaks. I never looked down on manual labor, because every dollar my father earned with his hammer carried the exact same moral weight as the dollars earned by a chief surgeon. "My father never lived to see me graduate," Leah whispered, a quiet tear tracing down her cheek. "During my 5th year of medical training, his heart gave out while he was working on a construction scaffold. He was 52 years old, Arthur, the exact same age you are today. He worked 16 hours a day, ignored his chest pain, and had no one standing beside him to perform resuscitation when he collapsed. When I completed my residency in cardiology at Cook County Hospital, I swore an oath in his memory that I would never let another family lose a father if I had the power to prevent it." For 8 years, Leah thrived in the high-stakes environment of Cook County Hospital's emergency cardiac ward, saving hundreds of lives and earning a reputation for unflinching diagnostic accuracy. During those golden years, she married David, a gentle and devoted structural draftsman, and together they welcomed their daughter, Maya, into the world. Their modest life was filled with purpose, stability, and joy, until Maya turned 3 years old and developed severe aplastic anemia, a rare and life-threatening bone marrow disorder requiring specialized immunosuppressive therapy, costly imported medications, and bi-weekly transfusions. The medical insurance from Cook County Hospital covered Maya's treatment completely, Leah explained, her voice tightening with remembered agony. David and I were managing her care, and she was responding beautifully to the therapy. But then, 2 years ago, I uncovered a widespread fraudulent scheme within my department. 3 senior attending physicians were fabricating occupational disability evaluations and signing fraudulent health clearances for large corporate transport firms in exchange for substantial monthly kickbacks. Healthy workers were being certified as permanently disabled, while drivers with severe cardiovascular conditions were being cleared to operate heavy machinery. Arthur's eyes widened in disbelief. "Did you report them to the medical board?" "I believed in the integrity of the system," Leah answered with a bitter, hollow smile. "I gathered conclusive documentation, time-stamped telemetry logs, and digital correspondence, presenting the entire dossier directly to the hospital administration. But within 72 hours, the narrative was completely inverted. The implicated physicians were powerful, influential department chairs with deep political connections. My evidence mysteriously disappeared from internal servers, and the administration accused me of professional misconduct, claiming I was fabricating allegations out of professional jealousy. A coordinated campaign of retaliation quickly unfolded against her. Leah was stripped of her clinical responsibilities, relegated to night shifts, and subjected to relentless bureaucratic harassment, until the hospital board forced her resignation under the threat of revoking her medical license. Within 30 days of her departure, the retaliation spilled over into her family's livelihood when the engineering firm employing David, which relied heavily on hospital structural contracts, abruptly terminated his position without cause. The catastrophic blow came when our employer-provided health coverage expired, Leah recounted, her hands trembling as she held her coffee cup. Maya's medication and blood maintenance regimen cost $5,000 every single month. We exhausted our entire life savings, our retirement accounts, and every dollar of family equity within 90 days. When the pharmacy refused to dispense Maya's medication because our account was overdrawn, I watched my little girl grow pale, weak, and bedridden. Knowing precisely which medications could save your child's life while being unable to afford a single capsule is a torment I would not wish on my worst enemy. Every medical facility in the region turned Leah away, having received blacklisting notices labeling her as an unstable and litigious liability. Desperate to secure any legitimate employment that included group health insurance for dependent children, Leah reached out to a childhood friend whose mother managed a commercial cleaning agency. I had 5 seconds to make a choice between professional pride and my daughter's survival, Leah said softly. I chose my daughter. I put on that blue custodian uniform, took the mop, and stepped onto your corporate floor. I swallowed my ego every single morning, because every floor I scrubbed bought another month of life-saving medicine for my child. Arthur sat in the diner booth, completely shattered by the weight of her words. He looked down at his own manicured hands, feeling a deep, burning shame for the years he had spent measuring human worth through financial balance sheets and corporate titles. Leah, please forgive me, Arthur choked out, his voice thick with unreserved remorse. Forgive me for looking straight through you for 2 long years. Forgive me for believing that your uniform defined your soul. You were fighting an extraordinary battle of maternal love and integrity, and I treated you like furniture. Leah met his gaze with profound stillness and grace. You do not need to apologize for what you did not know, Arthur. But you must understand that every human being walking through those corporate hallways carries an entire universe of struggle, sacrifice, and dignity. No person is invisible unless you choose not to look. Arthur leaned forward, a resolute fire igniting in his eyes. I am looking now, Dr. Vance, and I am asking you to return to the practice of medicine. I want you to become the chief medical director of my firm. We will build an on-site wellness clinic, establish comprehensive preventative care for every employee, provide you with $15,000 a month, full executive medical benefits for Maya, and total autonomy to heal. Leah's eyes shimmered with tears as the immense burden she had carried for years began to lift from her shoulders. On 3 conditions, Arthur, she replied firmly. First, we will establish an emergency medical assistance endowment funded from our corporate wellness budget, so no employee or their family ever faces financial ruin over health care. Second, every worker in your building, from the senior partners to the night custodial crew, will receive equal access to preventative clinical screenings. And third, you must promise me that you will never again allow a human being under your roof to be treated as invisible. Arthur extended his hand across the table, clasping hers with profound reverence. I give you my sacred word, Dr. Vance. Welcome back to medicine. The following Monday morning at 7 o'clock, the main glass doors of the Michigan Avenue corporate headquarters opened, and Dr. Leah Vance walked into the lobby. She was no longer carrying a rolling janitorial cart or wearing a faded blue uniform. She wore a tailored charcoal blazer, holding a leather medical bag in her hand, her head held high with serene dignity. The lobby security guard, Marcus, who had barely glanced at her for 2 years, stopped in his tracks, blinking in astonishment. Good morning, Dr. Vance, he said, reading the newly issued executive security badge pinned to her lapel. Leah offered him a warm, radiant smile. Good morning, Marcus. How are your wife and the new baby doing? Marcus stood speechless, his eyes widening in pure gratitude that this esteemed woman remembered his family. When the elevator opened on the 42nd floor, Arthur was standing in the reception area, flanked by Kelly and 30 corporate staff members. Arthur stepped forward, raising his hands to call for everyone's attention. Team, I want to officially introduce our new Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Leah Vance. As many of you now know, Dr. Vance is a world-class cardiologist who recently saved my life. Moving forward, she will be overseeing our comprehensive corporate wellness initiative, providing free on-site health care, cardiac prevention, and direct medical support to every single person working in this facility. The room erupted into genuine applause, though several department heads exchanged glances of profound amazement and quiet reflection. Kelly stepped forward, her eyes bright with tears of respect. "Dr. Vance, may I be your very first patient?" she asked with an open heart. "For 2 years, you kept my workspace spotless, and I never even took the time to ask your last name. I am so deeply sorry for our blindness, and I am so honored you are here to take care of us." Leah touched Kelly's shoulder with maternal tenderness. "The past is behind us, Kelly. Today, we begin taking care of one another as human beings." See Saunters, within 10 days, the former executive boardroom adjacent to Arthur's office was completely renovated and transformed into a state-of-the-art diagnostic clinic, equipped with advanced electrocardiogram monitors, automated external defibrillators, automated diagnostic labs, and comprehensive treatment bays. Leah immediately initiated mandatory, stress-free clinical evaluations for every employee. Her clinical acumen quickly uncovered critical conditions that had gone completely undetected in the high-stress corporate environment. Robert, in accounting, was diagnosed with early-stage adult-onset diabetes. Kelly was guided through severe autonomic anxiety management, and a senior analyst was placed on immediate therapy for malignant hypertension, preventing a catastrophic cerebrovascular accident. One afternoon, during the 3rd week of the clinic's operation, Maya, now a vibrant and energetic 12-year-old girl with clear skin and bright eyes, visited the office after school. Arthur crouched down to her eye level in the clinic waiting area, smiling warmly. "You must be Maya," Arthur said gently. Maya looked at the prominent executive with innocent curiosity. "Yes, sir. Are you the man my mom saved from the angels?" Arthur let out a soft, hearty laugh, wiping away a stray tear. "Yes, Maya, your mother stopped me from leaving this world. She is the greatest doctor on earth." Maya beamed with immense pride, holding her mother's hand tightly. "I know. When I grow up, I am going to be a pediatric hematologist so I can heal children just like the doctors healed me." Just as the internal culture of the enterprise reached a harmonious equilibrium, Arthur received an unexpected telephone call from Dr. Richard Hayes at Cook County Hospital. "Mr. Sterling, I wanted to reach out regarding Dr. Vance," Dr. Hayes said with genuine warmth. "Following an extensive independent investigation conducted by the State Medical Oversight Board, the fraudulent network of physicians within our department has been completely dismantled and permanently stripped of their clinical credentials. The Board of Directors wishes to offer Dr. Leah Vance full professional reinstatement as our Chief of Emergency Cardiology, accompanied by double her previous compensation and full research endowments. It is an extraordinary opportunity for her to reclaim her rightful place." Arthur felt his chest tighten, his heart sinking at the thought of losing the woman who had brought light and humanity back into his building. He walked slowly into Leah's clinic, where she was reviewing daily lipid panels at her desk. "Leah, I just spoke with Dr. Hayes from the hospital," Arthur said quietly, leaning against the door frame with a heavy heart. "They have cleared your name entirely. The corrupt physicians have been dismissed, and they are offering you the position of Chief of Emergency Cardiology with double your old salary. You have your full reputation back, Leah. You can return to where you always belonged." Leah set her medical pen down on the desk, looking out the panoramic window at the bustling Chicago skyline below. She sat in contemplative silence for several moments before turning her gaze back to Arthur. "Arthur, do you want me to leave?" she asked gently. "No," Arthur answered without a second of hesitation. "I want you here more than anything, but I want what is best for your destiny." Leah smiled, a deep sense of peaceful resolution radiating from her expression. In the emergency room, Arthur, I spent 15 years treating the catastrophic consequences of untreated illness, exhaustion, and broken lives. Here, in this community we have built together, I have the rare power to prevent those tragedies before they ever occur. I am staying right here. 6 months after the fateful morning that redefined their lives, Arthur Sterling's enterprise had evolved into a nationwide benchmark for corporate wellness and ethical workplace culture. The corporate environment, once characterized by grueling hours and cold indifference, had transformed into a collaborative, supportive sanctuary, where employee absenteeism fell by nearly 90%, and overall productivity soared by 40%. Arthur himself was a changed man. He left the office every afternoon at 5 o'clock to walk along the lakefront with Clara. His blood pressure was completely normalized, and his leadership style was rooted in empathy and active listening. In late spring, the leading national business publication, Fortune, published an extensive feature story titled "From the Shadows to the Sanctuary: How a Healer in Disguise Revolutionized Corporate America." The article detailed Leah's extraordinary resilience, Arthur's profound transformation, and the revolutionary preventative healthcare model they had successfully implemented. The national publicity sparked an overwhelming wave of interest from academic medical centers, nonprofit institutions, and global corporations eager to adopt the Chicago Wellness Framework. One sunny afternoon, Arthur entered the clinic holding an embossed invitation bearing the official seal of the International Occupational Health Congress in London. "Dr. Vance, the European Medical Society has formally requested you to deliver the keynote address at their global symposium next month," Arthur announced with immense joy. "They want you to teach 500 chief medical officers how to build human-centered preventative healthcare systems." Leah looked at the formal invitation, her eyes glistening with deep emotion. "I will accept, Arthur, but only if we present our findings as a shared testament to human dignity." 3 weeks later, Leah stood behind the podium in a grand auditorium in London, addressing a vast assembly of distinguished physicians, hospital directors, and corporate leaders from across the globe. Dressed in an elegant navy suit, she spoke with a voice that was both commanding and profoundly tender. "True healing does not begin with sophisticated diagnostic machinery or expensive pharmaceuticals," Leah shared with the silent, captivated audience. "Healing begins when we look into the eyes of our fellow human beings and choose to recognize their inherent, inviolable worth. For 2 years, I was completely invisible while holding a mop, yet the knowledge in my hands never diminished. When we learn to see every individual, regardless of their uniform, their income, or their social station, we create a society where lives are truly saved." The grand auditorium erupted into a thunderous standing ovation that lasted for several minutes, with veteran physicians wiping away tears as they stood to honor her wisdom. Upon her return to Chicago, the entire corporate staff surprised Leah in the main lobby with a celebration cake and a banner reading, "Welcome home, Dr. Leah Vance, our healer and our guide." That evening, over a home-cooked dinner with David and Maya, Leah received a personal call from the Dean of the University of Illinois College of Medicine, inviting her to serve as an adjunct professor of preventative and occupational medicine, training the next generation of physicians in holistic, compassionate care. 2 years after the morning his heart had stopped beating on the 42nd floor, Arthur Sterling sat in the quiet clinic for his routine quarterly cardiovascular evaluation. His electrocardiogram traced a strong, steady rhythm on the digital screen, a living testament to the hands that had pulled him back from the threshold of death. "Your heart is beating with absolute strength, Arthur," Leah said with a warm smile, removing her stethoscope. Arthur looked at his trusted physician, counselor, and dearest friend with profound reverence. "It beats because you taught it how to feel again, Leah. You did not just save my physical life, you saved my humanity." Life has an extraordinary way of stripping away our carefully constructed illusions, reminding us that our true value as human beings is never measured by the titles we hold, the wealth we accumulate, or the authority we wield over others. In our relentless pursuit of success, it is all too easy to construct invisible walls between ourselves and those who quietly labor in the background of our daily lives, forgetting that every person we pass in a corridor carries an intricate history of sacrifice, profound courage, and silent endurance. A custodian may possess the intellect to heal a dying heart, just as a powerful corporate executive may be entirely helpless in the face of sudden human vulnerability. When we allow ourselves to truly see the people around us, honoring the labor of the cleaner with the exact same reverence we offer to the chief surgeon, we unlock a deeper, more enduring form of compassion that transforms not only our workplaces, but our very souls. Dignity is not a privilege bestowed by social status or corporate hierarchy. It is a fundamental, birthright gift shared equally by every soul walking this earth. Sometimes the greatest lessons of our existence do not arrive through triumph or prosperity, but through the humble, unexpected moments when an unseen stranger extends a hand of grace, pulling us back from darkness and teaching us how to live with true kindness, humility, and purpose.